And I think, obviously sharing the information makes everyone host better events. And that's the goal of these webinars. So Jamie, if you want to go ahead and hit record, I think we're going to go ahead and get started.
We are now being recorded.
All right, so everybody, welcome to today's webinar, the lessons we learned in virtual career fairs in 2020, which were quite a few. And really, we also want to talk about the landscape moving forward. My name is John Garcia. I'm the marketing director for Premier Virtual. I'll be moderating today's webinar. Again, we regret that Steve Edwards, the CEO, can't make it, at least now at the beginning of the call. He had something, got called away last minute. He'll try to join us before it's all over. But again, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to pivot. We're going to persevere. We're going to move on. Right, and we're going to make this a great webinar because we have a great group of panelists. Again, everyone who's logging on, if you have a question, please put it in the chat. Jamie, our VP, will be monitoring the chat, and we're going to try to get to all the questions. Normally, we do a demo at the end of the webinar, but we're not going to do that today. We're really just going to stick to just the questions and the Q&A. And if you do want a demo, if you do want more information on Premier Virtual, we'll obviously give you that at the end. So before I ask the panelists, or introduce the panelists, I do want to say, as far as lessons learned, Premier Virtual has learned a lot of lessons as well, right? We are a relatively young platform. In fact, just over a year ago in April, we really started powering virtual career fairs. Does any of the panelists or anyone in attendance know, since April of last year, how many events we've powered to date? So in a little over a year, does anyone have a guess of how many events we've powered? Anybody want to volunteer and answer? 160. Jared, thank you for that. 200. Anyone else? Our panelists are being quiet. 1,000. Okay, we're getting warmer. 1,500. We're getting warmer. Thank you. Yeah, it's actually, thank you, Alexa, 2,500 is the number. So in 1 year, we've powered 2,500 virtual career fairs. That's over 200 per month, right? Steve Edwards, the CEO and founder of the company, he put on in-person job fairs for nearly 9 years. If you combine all of those years, all of the events he did, it would not add up to what we've done in 1 year. So I think, obviously it's a testament to the technology, and obviously there's a little thing called COVID, right? That forced everybody to turn to virtual. And it is a silver lining for our company that went from 2 employees to 20. And it's also a silver lining in that we've done so many events, we've taken all of this great feedback, and we're about to launch version 2.0. But, we look at it as really connecting employers and employees. We've been able to connect 25,000 employers have been on the platform, and 250,000 people have been through the platform to the job fairs. We have to imagine that a lot of new careers have been formed, and a lot of people have, been able to move on in a time when it's been very difficult. So for us, it really is a good feeling, and obviously hearing from our clients validates a lot of what's been going on there. So I do want to say, again, thank you to everyone who's here on the call. We're going to share some best practices and lessons here in a minute. But we obviously couldn't do it without you. And so thank you again for this amazing journey that we've had in the last year. So without further ado, I want to start introducing our panelists. Actually, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. Just give me, just let us know your name, the organization, what it does, and your role there. We'll start here in my top left. Morgan, if you don't mind kicking us off.
Sure. My name is Morgan Romeo. I'm the Executive Director of the Western Virginia Workforce Development Board. We are the Workforce Development Board that serves the Roanoke, Virginia area in Southwest Virginia. And I'm happy to be here and a frequent user of Premier Virtual. So thanks for having me today, guys.
Great. Thank you, Morgan. Appreciate that. Michael, you're up next.
Sure. I'm Michael Corbett. I'm a Vice President with CareerSource Palm Beach County here in South Florida. And we handle a lot of virtual job fairs. It's been very effective for us, so we love using the platform.
Thank you, Michael. Sharon, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Nelson. I am the head of talent acquisition with Richland School District 2 here in Columbia, South Carolina. Started using Premier Virtual at the beginning of this year, have had well over 10 to 15 events with the platform so far. Really enjoying it and really enjoy growing with the company as well.
Thank you for that. Larry, welcome.
Hey, thank you. My name is Larry Miller. I'm the Director of Military Relations / Chief Planner for the DoD Warrior Games. I work for the United States Veterans Chamber of Commerce. We got introduced to Premier last year. We've done 2 hiring events, and we're on our 3rd one now, focused on veterans and their spouses. And we find the platform probably the best out there to use.
Thank you, Larry. And as most of you know, Steve is a veteran, and we have several veterans on our board. So we are veteran owned and U.S. based. So we love all our events, but we especially love to be able to be helping the United States Veterans Chamber of Commerce. We're working with the U.S. Army, several other military. So we're very, very proud of that. Thank you, Larry. And last but definitely not least, one of our earliest adopters, Dana Morrison.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Dana Morrison. I work for East Baton Rouge Parish School System in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we're the 2nd largest school system. We have 80 schools, and this is a perfect reason virtual works well. Our city has actually gone through a horrible flood last night, so I'm not home. I'm at school today. I'm home, but please remember us in your prayers. It's really it's very sad to see so many of our families struggling, and that just happened last night. So anyway, but I have been with Premier since last April, and it's been an incredible experience for our school system.
Thank you, Dana, and I'm sorry to hear about the weather. I did see, I'm a news buff and a weather buff, and I did see a strong front on the map yesterday. It looked really strong. Didn't know it flooded. So definitely our prayers to you, everyone down there. So everyone, welcome again. We have almost 100 people on the call. We have some great panelists, and we're going to get into some questions. The first one I love to start with is something called digital transformation, right? Everyone's heard of digital transformation, but what is it in staffing and recruiting? What does digital transformation mean? So obviously COVID forced everyone to kind of quickly adapt. There's some people that say that COVID has accelerated the learning curve, if you will, of virtual events by 3 to 5 years, right? We would have taken 3 to 5 years had not a pandemic happened and forced everyone to turn to virtual. So what I want to ask you guys is, how prepared were you when the world shut down? I really want to know, how prepared were you to pivot and the lesson that you learned? So I really want to try to touch on this for each person here, because I think there's a lot of people on the panelists that are still kind of waiting or on the fence if virtual should be part of their, or even this digital transformation should be important. So I guess let's start again with Morgan here on the left. How prepared were you, or I guess unprepared is part of the answer, and the lesson that you learned from that, having, looking back now a year or so?
Well, I'll speak in two kind of aspects. I'll speak one for the Virginia aspect and then the other for my area. So in terms of Virginia, we always had the possibility for electronic use of a variety of different things, using technology to make our work more efficient and using it in some of our practices with program development and grant management. And there was always kind of a resistance to really take the plunge and really embrace technology and rely on it to really do our job for us and help us a lot. And so when the pandemic came, you're right. When you said 3 to 5 years of progress in, less than a year almost, that is really what it felt like in Virginia. All of a sudden, we were kind of saying all those conversations we've been having about investing in technology and really doing everything, we just had to take the leap and, kind of hope that it would really catch us and help us out. So, I actually, from my perspective with my workforce development board, I got a ping from my colleague up in Northern Virginia who was working with Premier Virtual, because I was saying, I've got to have something. My employers are screaming for people what to do. And they said, hey, you need to contact Jamie at Premier Virtual. Okay, what is this? And once we kind of viewed it, we did do a little bit of shopping around, and I thought, man, this is by far the best one. So, it really, I think we were always anticipating that change in technology, but I would say we were not really prepared. But I think Premier Virtual and just the ease and how accessible you guys have been has really helped us out, make that transition even better. And I think that we have already decided that regardless of going to the new normal, Premier Virtual will be a part of our operations for years to come. So.
Love it. Thank you, Morgan. We're going to definitely touch more onto that last point a little later on in the webinar. Michael, you are as tech savvy as they come. So I know Palm Beach CareerSource was ready for digital, right? When this thing happened?
We were fortunate to jump onto this about a week after the pandemic was announced. We love to do in-person job fairs. Anytime you can get job seekers in front of hiring managers, good things are going to happen. And I embraced this immediately. I went right to the executive team, said, we're going to do this. Nobody said no. We had employers lined up. We partnered with Palm Beach Tech, our local industry organization, did a great event. I don't remember, John, we had a lot of companies on that first event. I thought it was going to bust the bandwidth, but it didn't. We had over 1,000 participants that jumped on, going into the chat rooms and talking. It went really, really well. So that was the start of a very good relationship, and we do many of these events all the time. So it's common ground for us right now.
Yeah, definitely organizations like yours that bring a lot of other companies together did a lot for us to prove, you know, that the platform could do what we said it would do. So thank you for that, Michael. Sharon, where were you guys in the digital transformation when you kind of, you know, had to pivot?
Completely caught off guard.
Yeah.
Completely unprepared, I will say. We were boots to the ground. We had so many events, in-person events planned. It was a well-oiled machine. Everything had been working beautifully the way that it had been working. And then we were forced into this isolation, and and I work for a school district, of course, but during a teacher shortage. So my team and I heavily, in the South, we're so hospitable. We rely on our interpersonal relationships, relationship building, traveling to different colleges and universities, and, facilitating professional development workshops, and all of that was gone. So I was not prepared. However, it was a great opportunity for my team and I to take a moment to say, okay, we weren't prepared. Why did we miss this? What were our blinders? And so it took us having to go through that to create such a process now that we still have a very, very strong opportunity to in-person network, and it's in a different capacity, but now also just to have the playing field of the platform that makes our digital footprint is as strong as our in-person footprint.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. That's a great lesson learned, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty there and your transparency with that. That's very helpful. Dana, you were a very early adopter, but I do believe you were pulling your hairs out when you called us.
Yes, that's why my hair is so curly now. But
yeah.
So one thing that was really, I think was awesome for us is that I was a middle school teacher for 30 years. So I've been in this position for 3. So my district was already one-to-one technology wise. So we had that benefit. We had also already looked at virtual platforms through Ed Week. So I had been researching that, and we had already done that a couple of times in the past 5 years. And as Sharon said, there's a huge teacher shortage. So we were already looking into doing things differently, looking for different interventions. And we adopted probably like Michael the week after the pandemic. And I guess the reason, pulling my hair out was because we were all isolated from everyone. Yeah. And so literally there's 80 schools, and Dana has been picked to set everything up for 80 schools with no contact with a lot of people. And I just want to say that Steve and Gary, oh my gosh, they were, I think Gary is still a volunteer fire person. Yes, he was on the phone with me all the time, like trying to set this up and get everything going. And I can never, ever even begin to say what Premier meant to us as a school system. And to me, to help me to navigate through all that. And it was an incredible blessing. So I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Dana. We really helped each other out. As much as you gave us kudos there, just being flexible enough that that what you needed and what we could do, it just made us better quicker. I think like anything else, when you had to perform, it really just helped us improve quickly. Larry, you've been a big fan of the platform, but and I do think, from just knowing you, and your perseverance, that these are the type of things that you just do to move on. But how were you when this transition happened? How were you set up to go digital?
Yeah, so I'm the opposite of everybody. So I was working on retiring after 31 years when COVID hit. So my retirement on 1 June was pick up a piece of paper and leave because everything had shut down. So I came into this last summer, and I used to do transition. That was one of my jobs at the end of my career, to get folks out. And I realized everything had come to a screeching halt because I've run a number of in-person events throughout the year to support the wounded, ill, and injured side. And when we got involved with Premier, it allowed us to start looking globally. So when we set up our first event, people thought we were kind of crazy. I think Premier thought we were crazy too. We set it up so we could look from Afghanistan and Germany to Korea and Okinawa. And we set it up over a 2-day event, and then we built it out under regions versus just a straight up job fair. And overall, and we've learned a lot of lessons. We've had over 1,000 people on both of them, and a good mix of everybody from 22 to 52 years of age. And we've been very fortunate. Companies have come on in schools. We had a wide range. We still do. And I've been a big fan of Premier because I talk about it all the time, because it's by far, and I've looked at the other platforms, the simplest to use and the most user friendly to build out, that we recommend from the US VCC side to every employer we talk to. Is this is where to go, because it's so much friendly to use. But technology wise, I'm a little bit different, but it was a leap the military needed to go to. I think that and I'll answer the question later, is I think this hybrid model is the way to go long term, because I think there's a lot of things that can be, you see the goodness in this thing.
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to ask a couple different questions to different panelists here. We'll jump around, but I do appreciate everyone answering that first question, because I think it's so important that we don't wait any longer to be, digitally transformed, right? We're doing it in a lot of different areas of our businesses, and, staffing and recruiting is really no exception. Right now, as unemployment goes down, I would say it's probably even more important to have this platform, because you guys expressed it a couple of times how scarce teachers are, and in a lot of different workforces, the labor shortage is a very real thing. So the platform is allowing you to reach more people, and we'll talk more about that. But Morgan, I'm going to pick on you for a minute. Was there one thing that really had to happen in your organization to kind of get that yes, or to kind of get, okay, we're going to do this? And the reason I'm asking this also for just the panelists here is, we have a lot of attendees on the call where, maybe you're part of a team and there's different people that have to say yes or no. So to get everybody on board, what was that one big challenge or hurdle you had to overcome to say, yes, we're going to do this? Is that fair?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that we had to, biggest challenges we had to overcome was just probably the perception of change. I mean, we have a lot of, within our workforce development system, which I'm sure some of my panelists can understand, we have lots of different entities, lots of different partners that, collaborate with us to put on some of these events. And some of them are state agencies who have been doing the same way for the same time all through for the last 30 years. And so, it was very hard for them to adjust or think about adjusting to something where they wouldn't have as much face-to-face time, or wouldn't have that, collect their metrics. And I think the data collection was a big thing. Can we get the same data? Can we make sure that we can measure our outcomes the same way? And once we showed them the platform, I think that all of their fears were kind of, thrown out the door a little bit, because we can customize it and do what we need to do. But yeah, I think just change and kind of showing them that this is the way of the future. It's now or never, and like I said, COVID kind of gave us that just push off the edge. So
Yeah.
That would be what I say.
Yeah, that we see that a lot. People, we do demos every day, all day long, and it's really sometimes just overcoming, the belief that this can actually do what an in-person event does. And then to your point, even give you probably more. Do you feel like you had more information at the end of the event with the
Oh,
report?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think one thing that we've really benefited from is, we have people in person, they can fill out little information forms and everything, but we don't really catch all of them at all of them every
Sure.
time. But this one, talk about efficiency. We're able to, they're putting in their email address. We're collecting some different data points and it's being uploaded directly into our constant contact. So then we can contact them in the future for events and other things that we're doing. And we've been able to offer a lot more services to these individuals just besides coming to the event and seeing if there's a job. So absolutely.
Great, thank you. And it's feedback like that that's helped us reinvest into the platform. And now we're going to have real-time reporting. So in real time, you'll be seeing everything that's going on in the event. So we know a lot of people are excited about that. I'm going to just shoot it out to the panelists. If anyone wants to volunteer, that one big challenge or hurdle that's different than what Morgan may have said. If anyone wants to chime in on that.
I think I'll chime in. As far as our department is concerned, it was the buy-in. I really had to gain that buy-in and funnel it all the way up to the top to get approval. When working in nonprofits and school districts and things of that nature, it is all, public funds. So I had to present proposal after proposal and show return on investment and what that would look like, and cost per hire and what that would look like. And with me taking multiple trips, catching flights, hotel, per diem, and what that would look like in relation to the cost of a platform and how I can turn that around and actually save money for our district so that we can use those funds, allocate those funds somewhere else. If it's teacher retention or if it's, little swags here and there, I was able to show that, using this platform to even extend our reach outside of just, our state, and it would be a better return on investment. So the buy-in was a major deal for us. But once I got it, it really kind of took off, and then everyone was behind what was making our, footprint stand out.
And now they're thanking you. Well, I appreciate that, Sharon, and I'm sure we, everyone here on the panel had to have a certain amount of that, challenge and get everyone's buy-in. So, however you did it, in different ways, obviously your organization is better off for it. I want to pause for a second, just let the participants know as I'm asking questions. The chat is open to ask follow-up questions or your own questions, and we'll try to address them as we move on here. So now that we're kind of pros, right? How many events? Larry, you've done 3 national events. Michael, you've done 20.
Not more than 20.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one thing we as a platform like to pride ourselves on is that our license is unlimited. So, where some people were like, well, we did 2 events in person last year, so we may not need virtual, right? When you have this new toy in your hand, what happened, Michael?
Well, I mean, looking back, within 2 weeks, our unemployment in Palm Beach County went from 4% to 14%. So I started losing sleep right away, obviously, and I had to do something, and we switched to this very quickly, as I said. But probably the biggest thing we did was I got the COO from CareerSource Florida in Tallahassee on the phone. And I said, look, everybody's facing this situation. You might as well look at a couple of platforms and buy a statewide enterprise license. And he heeded that advice. He went right to his board. He told them the potential solutions we were looking to do. He listened. They allocated funds for us to do a statewide enterprise license, and that way it took away any cost or any objections and hurdles for any of the boards across the state. So it has not cost any of us anything to do these events all the time. And that was a big accomplishment for all of us.
Yeah, you unified the entire state with one platform, and but still everyone does their own thing as well, right? So the different boards do their different events.
Well, we started using the platform for the regions to our north and south because people cross city and county lines to go to work. So it didn't really matter to me, obviously. So, and the other thing we did was I pushed it out in the community. I said, this was not just our issue trying to get people back to work. It's everybody's challenge. And I got all the chambers of commerce, all the industry organizations. We put all of their logos on the flyers and marketing materials, and that helped spread the word very quickly. And since then, we've seen unemployment steadily reduce itself, which is fun. That's what we need.
Excellent. Yeah, we've now been really welcomed by the workforce board community. We probably have about 200 workforce board accounts, and it's really partnerships like yours, Michael, and statewide in certain states that really have helped. But we've definitely seen how effective it can be when it is unified. And so, Dana, you have the entire second largest school district, right, in Baton Rouge.
Yes. I think going back to the question that Sharon answered earlier, kind of combined the two, but we've had close to about 20. But the one thing that was really good about our school system in regards to our leadership was that Daphne Donaldson, who is our Chief Human Resources Officer, she had been in recruitment prior to me. So she already knew like several platforms, and I don't know where she had met Steve and Premier, but like there were 3 companies that we were to call right after the pandemic, right after lockdown. And I remember talking to Steve in my living room, and he was just like, gosh, your best friend ever. And he just got everything rolling. And, so here we are now a year later, and we've probably been involved in 20, and we've done different size ones, but it has been very effective for us.
So we appreciate that. And we've heard a lot of really good feedback so far, positive things. Larry, what are some of the things that didn't go so well so far? I mean, I know that you've had a lot of success. Where has either the platform failed or getting people on board failed? What hasn't? We want to learn these lessons here. So what are some of the takeaways that you can give us?
The platform has not failed. I mean, it's an evolutionary thing. So I mean, you started, like Mike said, is what you started probably in April is the same thing we started last fall, and then you kind of evolve over time. You've got made adjustments, and it's a living platform.
Yeah.
Years from now, it'll be much different. The biggest challenge I think everybody else sees is the lack of people coming on the job fair, no matter how hard you push. And for our population, we go nationwide looking for veterans, transitioning spouses. So we've been under that problem, like everybody else, is kind of too much unemployment, too much stimulus, and all those other things, and people have kind of taken a knee. We saw a real good flow for December, and then we didn't see very good flow for March. And I talked to Adam about it, and I thought, hey, maybe we messed up somewhere. We put a lot of effort, we had a lot of good companies, and we come to find out that a lot of folks are seeing the same thing. So kind of now watching the lesson learned, proverbially watching the Wall Street Journal and everything else, getting ready to do our June event. That's really starting to tap into that stimulus that people got to start looking for jobs, especially on the veteran side. That's what we target. I think back to Morgan's comment earlier is what we've seen is evolutionary to this thing is trying to make folks understand that they can work in a virtual environment and have meaningful conversations. So the biggest thing you guys did was you solved the problem with being allowed to have Zoom access on DoD computers. We got through that firewall. So in the transition office, it made it easier than versus somebody trying to sit in a parking lot on their telephone. And then what we found, last point to it, is we sold a lot of companies and tools that, hey, this is the way to go. They were very apprehensive. This is going to work. It's not. We kind of equated to the average job fair is probably a $2,000 to $3,000 investment to fly people, put them in hotels, rental cars, food, all those type of things. And that we're for a nominal fee, you can have 10 people in there. So you're basically paying pennies on the dollar. But once we sold them, like for our June event, we have over 30 repeat companies for the whole year. So they're all in. And I think the final point is, this is a plus for you guys, it's the back office support, the live support during the event, the quick troubleshooting and everything else sets it apart. And what we learned from you guys, and I share as a lesson learned, is when we do our event, I spend all day bouncing from booth to booth. Now, it's probably more unique than some other folks, but the feedback I've gotten from a lot of the companies was we're one of the few that actually do that in the customer service. So we make a point of coming in and troubleshooting people and try to make a point of linking veterans up to companies or schools if they get stuck in the event. So we have a couple cool partners that we do that with. But yeah, those are our lessons learned. I think in another year or two, you'll be on 4.0 and it'll be really interactive. I'm real excited for the 2.0 rollout here next month because I think there's a lot of cool features that are going to enhance what we do.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. That is a good point for anyone on the call, really all attendees. When you have an event, doing your own kind of internal quality control, right? Going from booth to booth, seeing how everything is going, addressing any questions that any other employers may have. I think it's very, people use this in different organizations are using this differently. But if you are a host and you have a lot of employers, it is definitely a good practice, Larry, to go from booth to booth and see how everything is going. We do have some questions here in the chat, and one is about promoting the event. It says, promote this to potential booth exhibitors. Larry, you're the only chamber. Does anyone monetize the platform? Just out of curiosity, do you charge employers to participate? This is all paid for at state level and things like that. Okay. So I just wanted to ask that for a second. How about, this is a good question, and I think we've seen some of the better events include a team on your end. So Sharon, Morgan, I know some of Michael's organization, but Sharon, do you have a team now, or who helps you put on these events, and what are the different roles?
Oh yes, I most definitely have a team. So my team consists of several recruiters, and now one of my recruiters or individuals on my team is responsible for the communication to the businesses and or schools. Another one is responsible for making sure that we stay communicative with the attendees. So when they are registering, I have someone who is specific to send out, don't forget, in a week, or thank you for registering, or here's a video, so just kind of gets that hype up. Make sure you share. And here are 3 questions. We've kind of made it fun. Have 3 questions that they throw out as they get closer to the event, or a scavenger hunt, go to, you want to find these 3 items at these 3 different locations, which then encourages more participation at all of the booths because you're trying to find that thing. And then it will say something to the effect of, and once you find it, email me back, and then you'll receive X, Y, and Z. So there's multiple moving parts. I'm kind of just overseeing at this point because my team can kind of, facilitate it without me being there, since we all work together. But now we've just had the 2.0 kind of training with our representatives. So we're super excited on what that's going to look like. But we still will act in the same capacity, just making sure that all the moving parts, whether it be communication with the business owners, the attendees, the social media, the team that works specifically on the recruitment, the advertisement and social media capacity, all of these things make the platform that much more effective.
I love that, Sharon. Thank you so much for sharing that, because we're trying to put together a toolkit and also some best practices, right? So in a year ago, we were feeling our way around in the dark, right? I mean, now you have a team, you have someone dedicated to communication, you're making it fun, which I love. The scavenger hunt and things like that are proven techniques in trade shows and expos, but why not use it in career fairs? So those are great. I'm probably going to follow up with you on an email and get some of these bullet points, because we want to share it with everyone. We don't, as a platform, put ourselves in your marketing of your events too much. We're here to support you, and we do offer press releases as much as possible. But we are trying to create not only a best practice thing, but other resources. So let me ask, I know, Michael, you've had a lot of different companies on the fairs. Have you also had different services? Like we've seen resume writing services or career coaching or things like that. Have you provided things like that in your events?
We have, to step back, we have a checklist that we go through. Business services focuses on the companies, and the recruiters focus on the job seekers, and then marketing communications blasts it out in a lot of different ways. But for the most part, yes, we've done a really good job. What did you ask me again? I forget.
Just different services. Have you provided?
Oh, the workshops, right.
Yeah.
We do resume workshops during the event to keep people engaged, interviewing skills, social etiquette online so that you look professional, dress professional, act professional, clean up your LinkedIn account, social media, things like that. So it keeps people engaged because we see people coming, they look at the companies, they look at the jobs, and a lot of times they leave. But if we have workshops during the course of the event, it keeps them engaged in coming back. So that has worked well for us.
Excellent, thank you. That's a great, something that maybe in the beginning we weren't doing or we weren't seeing as much of from our clients, and then seeing more of it lately. Anyone else want to share any other kind of, added value, if you will, of your events that you're using that are effective?
What we do is we're just a little bit different. We do monetize it so we can put the money back into the veteran community for food insecurity, adaptive sports, those type of things is kind of what we do. But we keep evolving. So we bring on 2 or 3 extra veteran support type agencies, and we put them in the platform so they kind of move around to help move the veterans around and companies. Because we find for us, majority of the recruiters we run into are veteran centric. So it makes it a little bit easier to tie in. But we've been very fortunate because we tie into also the Office of Secretary of Defense's transition office and the National Resource Directory. So we're able to help them get the word out on what they do to support the overall veterans. And for us, we want to get to the point of helping with the resumes and those kind of things. But the biggest hurdle probably I've seen and I've lived through before this all started was trying to take X number of years in the military and make it sound like the civilian world and not be, like, you're a burger flipper. For me, the perfect example is I was a chief of staff for 3 years at a department level in the Marine Corps. And when I put on my resume, I keep getting, hey, you'd be a perfect office administrator to type people's homework up for them. And I'm kind of like, usually when they call them, I usually have the same conversation. Like, you realize that's not exactly what that said, but okay,
Yeah.
I guess I got it wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those
Well,
are the things.
Yeah, that's excellent. And now with the new platform, we are going to have video interviews that the candidate can upload themselves, because obviously, like you said, the resume doesn't always resonate. It's just a piece of paper. And my understanding is a lot of resumes never even make it to the recruiter's hands, right? Because there's a lot of programs that vet, if you will, a resume. So this is really, I think, so as an individual. Going to a job fair, I would say, could be pretty intimidating, where I think the virtual can take some of that out and give maybe more candidates encouragement, if you will. So as far as a lot of attendees attending one event, I think we got to go to Morgan, because they hold the record with 15,000 job seekers on the platform at one time. So yeah. That was broke every record that we can imagine. So I want to ask you first on the marketing side. I know, is there anything you could share on what helped get? I know it was statewide, and I know you had 350 employers on that event. So obviously, there's just probably success in numbers, right, with the employers. But was there something else that you can point out that maybe made it so I guess appealing or drew so much attention?
Yeah, I think, I have to speak to collaboration on that one because we got all of our local governments, involved with sharing it, because we did that statewide event at a time where employers, they were sort of ramping back up after the initial shock of COVID and initial closures and things. And so employers were really just begging for employees at that point. And so, localities were hearing about it, and we did a joint press release from all of the workforce boards across the state. So just letting everybody know I was there, and then really had some help from our employment commission. So our Virginia Employment Commission runs all of our unemployment benefits. They actually sent text messages to every single unemployment claimant in the state, which that's where our biggest chunk came from. So that was a game changer for us as well. But yeah, I can speak to, we have a little bit of angst about that event still. We've had a couple since then, and we're like, is it going to do it again? Are we going to test the servers? Jamie might have a little bit of angst as well, nightmares from that event, but we appreciated you all's help in pulling that off, and our employers loved it.
Yeah, so working with the local government. So the text messaging seemed to definitely make a difference. We are working more text messaging and emailing into the platform for communicating. And we're also going to be promoting some vendors that we're working with. So I'll just throw it out there. I don't know if you've heard of Engage by Cell, but Engage by Cell is a text messaging platform, and they work with other workforce boards. We have some mutual clients. So it's definitely a best practice. I mean, people still, without a doubt, text messaging is what they kind of notice more than any other type of messaging. Social media, text messaging, and then probably email marketing. So along the lines of marketing, I know Michael's done, a great job with niche events. Sharon, what kind of tools have you turned to for marketing your events?
Oh yeah, for sure. So marketing, that's really, really heavy how we get the word out. So in addition, we have a communications department here, of course, that has multiple different, multiple streams of, social platforms, but we also, work with, our workforce here in the city. So we work with them and they produce job boards and things of that nature for us as well. But we do absolutely use our texting capacities. So as soon as, like I said, I have someone on my team who's responsible for the outreach of candidates as they are registering. So once candidates register, we upload them to our platform and a text message will go out. Thank you for registering, and here's a link to access what a 30-second elevator speech looks like.
Yeah.
That, keep giving them like little trinkets of information that always take it back to our either platform or to our website that continues to keep the job seeker engaged.
Excellent. What would you say, Dana, would be the lead time that you want to give? Let's say you decide on an event. How much time do you want to give in order for it to be successfully marketed and draw enough people for it to be a success?
I find that if you go too far out, they don't connect back. It kind of gets lost.
Yeah.
Sharon, I'm taking lots of notes, and you need to call my people, tell them how many people you have, because it's just me. But I find that the best is about a 2.5-week window.
Yeah. Okay.
The best thing that we do have a communications department, but they're always super busy with lots of other things. And I'm always like, we have to have teachers or there won't be a need for all these other things. But they don't
It's pretty important.
So I just keep trying. But we do have 80 schools, and all those schools do have some sort of social media presence. So I usually write them a very, please help me help you email. And I attach the flyers and I ask them to please attach it to all of their social media and then share with all their friends and family and on and on and on. And that seems to be the best because communications, even though I've said that they need to do a billboard and they need to do radio, and I really think we should do Spotify and Pandora, they don't seem to value my thoughts about that because of the budget. So
we don't have the budget for all that, right?
So I think the best is that the schools will put it on their social media and it gets shared. And that seems to be where I am right now, but I'm going to keep trying, just obstacles. So.
Well, excellent. Thank you for sharing. I do want to point out two things that I've seen from successful events is I've seen them actually create a Facebook event page. Mm-hmm. So, actually, you have your registration page, obviously you have your Premier virtual link and all that, and you're sharing, but creating an event page on Facebook. And then obviously there would be the link to the registration and promoting that event page. And because obviously Facebook helps you target, using keywords, your audience a little bit better. I think to Dana's point, a job seeker that's in the market, it happens. You can be in the market for a long time, but usually it's a short window. They want to make a decision. So if you go too far out, it's just too far. Most people are back in and out of the job market, by that time. So I do think that 2.5 weeks is a good amount. The Facebook page is a great tactic. The other one is I used to work at the Palm Beach Post, so it's the local newspaper here. I've worked at a lot of different media companies. They're always hiring, right? They always need people. So inviting them to the event, to literally have a booth at the event, okay, is a nice way to build goodwill, right? Michael is a champion of having the local news. He gets to his office, right? And they're outside his office. The news loves to report about job creation. So if to the extent that you can have a relationship with that personal news, so the newspaper, the radio, and the TV in your local area, the better your events are obviously going to be. Now, we all do press releases, but this is the next step. This is inviting the press to have a booth, no charge, right? I mean, most people here are not charging for events anyway. Let them do their thing, and you'll build some goodwill, and they'll mention the event. And with Steve, the founder of Premier Virtual, when he was putting in-person events on, that was always part of the tactic. Just letting the local news know that the event is going on. And many times they love to talk about job creation. Michael, how do you do it? You have the TV vans outside of your office. Is it just because you're that good looking, or is there something else to it?
No, first of all, it took a little while to adjust to how people procrastinate till the last minute to register.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it is. It's not like you have stacks of people registered weeks in advance, so be prepared for that. But we do a press release. We really target 3 or 4 local television stations. And for some reason, they're always in the parking lot. I pull in at 6:45 in the morning. The event's not till 10 o'clock. There's 2 or 3 reporters out there with cameramen filming, asking Tom questions, asking job seekers. Even some people come in person because they want to use our computers and systems. But man, the registration goes just like that then, because it's live on TV, and the mom or the dad kicks their kid and says, you need to get on this today to look for a job. I don't want you on the couch anymore.
Right.
So it literally works that way. So that's a big bonus for us.
Thanks, Michael. It's because of Michael's, stories and testament that I know this works. I mean, I'm in marketing. I've worked in media a long time. They want to report about these events. Sharon, you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to make mention and also just kind of give this piece of, I guess, feedback to Ms. Dana there. One of the avenues that we have used recently, and I cannot believe I forgot about this, to promote our events as geofencing. And that was just a newer opportunity that we hadn't taken advantage of. A couple of some of our networks here in the area had been using it. So when we started geofencing, our registration went through the roof.
Wow.
So we found a better return on investment using geofencing versus that of billboards, which was a higher cost, the billboards were, than using this type of vehicle.
So these are geofencing ads on a mobile phone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great tactic. Anyone have any questions on that? You could definitely get with me on that. You could email me, John, at Premier Virtual. But yeah, that's a great idea, because obviously these events are still local in nature, even though the virtual platform, obviously one of the benefits is that you can recruit from anywhere and people can attend from anywhere. Obviously it helps if there's remote work positions available, right? I mean, that's just a benefit. If you have a virtual event and you have remote work opportunities, that's going to be a big draw as well. We only have about 10 minutes left, and I want to get to the granddaddy question of them all. Well, I have a ton of other stuff, and we'll do some more webinars, and we'll definitely invite you guys. Amazing. Thank you so much for participating today. But we'll start left to right, and I want everyone to give at least a couple minutes on this answer. But as the world turns, we're vaccinated, we're seeing a lot of things happening in person. There's still a lot of ambiguity. There's still a lot of people, a little bit worried about just being in crowds and things like that. So my big question is, where do you stand? We'll start with Morgan on virtual moving forward. Does hybrid events mean something to your strategy at this point? Is there ever going back to in-person only events? There was once a thing called the Yellow Book, right? There was once a thing called classified ads, and so on and so on. And really, this, we see it as part of the evolution of recruiting and staffing with virtual. So a year into this, looking back what you've learned, right, Morgan, and where you are now, what role is virtual playing or moving forward? How do you see it panning out?
Yeah, sure. So I think that all of us have said that the convenience just cannot be matched with virtual. Yes, I definitely think we will go back to in-person in some shape or form. We're actually having an in-person event in June. But, the weather's nice, right? We love being outside. We're still taking those precautions. But a lot of our employers have talked about the convenience and the ease of use. You know, the difference is coming to an in-person job fair. Let's say the least amount of time you're going to be there is about 2 or 3 hours of your day. So you're standing there, you can't do any other work. You're really focused on that. With Premier Virtual, they can be at their desk multitasking until someone comes and engages with them. So it just helps them be a little bit more efficient in their recruiting practices. So absolutely, we're going to be a hybrid model from here on out. We've also started to really use it for actually individual employer screening for jobs. So individuals who are interested in applying, we have them go on and register, submit their resume, and then the employer engages with them afterwards. So we're using it in a variety of different shapes and forms and just using it to our advantage. So yep, it's going to be our strategy for quite some time. So we really appreciate the help with it.
Great. Thank you for that answer. Michael, where do you see this, I know for you, it's a little bit more, not complicated, but, there's a whole state involved. So where do you see it going forward?
I'm with Morgan. We've already started doing in-person job fairs back in March.
Mhm.
And we do them basically from 9 to noon or so. And then in the afternoon, we add the virtual component. So it adds value to what the employer sees, obviously, and they're not paying. But the job seeker, it makes it much more convenient for them. If they want to come in person, that's fine. If they need to take a break from their job, they're looking for a different job, the afternoon virtual is very good for them. So as well as Morgan, we're doing events for employers. They're using it as a first step screening tool. Then they're taking them into a chat room or doing a Zoom GoToMeeting to talk with them. And then they'll either come in our office to do an in-person hiring event or at their location. So it's really been very flexible for us.
That's great. Thank you, Michael. I love that first step screening tool, right? Because it is so much better than just reading a resume. I can't imagine how many people have passed on a good person just because of the resume. So here's a great way to use the tool to identify talent. Sharon, where are you in this next phase?
Oh, we absolutely, just like our panelists are saying, we're using it in a hybrid capacity. I think it actually works well for us because you have to understand who the individuals are on your team if you have a team. People on my team who are not people persons, very not to be in front of an event. So this actually works better for them. They have anxiety when they get in front of groups, and
Sure.
so that works better for them. Whereas, my personality, has me, I need to be out in front of folks. So relationship so that we can talk and I can make you laugh. And then I can really look at your resume and say, you went where, that type of thing, and build that, that whole, draw them in actually.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely going to work best. It's going to be advantageous for us to continue to use both modalities.
Excellent. Larry, do you mind giving us some thoughts here on their platform moving forward?
A couple of versions. I think the future of the hybrid model is companies, if they were smart, they're going to pick 1 or 2 people that are traveling roadshow, and they're going to have the back office folks that they can pass them off to. And the reason is same thing Sharon said. Some people are really good in front of people. Some people are not.
Yeah.
If I put back on my military hat and everything else, where this hybrid model really comes into play is, one is I don't have to spend a lot of money bringing people back from overseas. So as they get ready to transition, they don't lose a week, 2 weeks to try and transition. They could be on chip, they could be a remote base and log in. The third thing is I think that as the model as you kind of grow the model, is it allows the recruiter in face-to-face to kind of triage through people and either allow people to first, as Morgan said, register early, and then you kind of look at them and then you kind of target the market that comes out and recommend them show up in person. But the reverse side is you get to look at folks, and then if I'm recruiting for somebody, I could say, hey, look, I think you're a really good cyber person, so I'm going to send you to Sharon, and Sharon will get online with you. And so you can actually target the person back to the other end of that actually can talk to it. Because I think sometimes in all of our experiences, a recruiter in the booth may not have the depth of the things you're asking for se. So having that reach back capability. And then the last thing I think is the cost benefit analysis is, where do you want to put your money? If you want to put your money against social media more, and then you can target that kind of revenue into, least amount of travel dollars is definitely a plus. For us, I think because we don't do it locally, we do it nationally. The way
Yeah.
we look at it really globally is that's the model also folks kind of go to is a global look at how many people are out there and get people involved. And I just want to circle back really fast. One thing we found from an earlier comment was we do a lot on LinkedIn, and because that's really promoted inside the military, and when you transition, like everybody has to have a LinkedIn account if you're really paying attention to transition, is we find the biggest traction on LinkedIn. And for me, every time we do these events, people tag me on LinkedIn. I tag back. I know, Don, you're on there. We share stuff back and forth all the time. Jamie and I are always sharing stuff. But I also believe that's a great network to build everybody's event, no matter if it's ours, if it's Sharon's or Dana's or Michael's or Morgan's. I think interconnects because, at least for me, people get a chance for a broader look.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, LinkedIn is the professional network. I think we get a lot of leverage on there as well. When you have your events and you have 350 employers and they're all posting on LinkedIn, Larry, you do a great job on sharing. Every time a new employer is added to your event, you share that, and I think that's another great practice. And Larry, obviously, to your point, you do national, international, events. You can never do that in person, right? I mean, there's just no way. So, I mean, for you, this is definitely a go-to-market strategy that just the in person just can't replicate.
Yeah, and one final point. What our long-term goal is, in my mind, is I want to be able to get international partners on because a lot of military want to stay overseas, either in Europe, in the South Asia, or something like that. And that's our long-term goal is to try to get those international partners that recruit folks that are going to stay overseas or want to go back overseas and live somewhere because a lot of folks they're very comfortable with that.
Excellent. Well, I saw quite a few questions regarding, it looked like some military personnel and government agencies and firewalls. So Larry is, he's definitely our champion here on the military side. If you have some questions, Larry is available on LinkedIn. You could share your contact and reach out to him. Dana, you are always last but not least.
I was thinking really quick though, Larry, if you have any veterans who want to become teachers, I'm sure Sharon and I can help them. So I just want to mention that. I'm sorry, John.
That's great. To that point, we are starting a new website called My Virtual Community, and we just want to create a space where we can do things like this. We can share resources. We can what match needs with with wants and things like that. So look out for it. We'll be sharing it in our communication. It's called My Virtual Community. And we look forward to more interaction like this. So Dana, where do you see virtual in your school district?
So I have been a longtime school teacher, and so the blackboard we don't use anymore. We barely use the whiteboards anymore. So time is changing. So we're not going to go back to not using virtual. Virtual is here to stay. Awesome. We just have to navigate what that looks like. And so for me personally, I feel like as a recruiter, I think Sharon will share this as well in the academic world, but people like to connect with people. And so that's why it's so important, even though we're not in person together, I feel like I have learned a little bit about all of you. So it's really important that virtual piece, not just the texting and typing. I also think that it's really important, especially I can't even imagine having 15,000 people at my job fair. I'm excited if there's 150, but the thing is that, as we make these connections, I think sometimes people fall through the cracks, like maybe they weren't good interviewers, maybe they didn't have a fancy resume and we lose them. And I think this is a great way for us to maybe use the virtual, like we have our face-to-face in June as well, but I'm going to be really honest, if the board called me today, we have been up 50-60% using virtual. So I know we're going to go back face-to-face, but I think virtual has to be a component of that. Yeah. And as we make connections with people, it's important that we look at them as a whole person so we don't lose them. Yeah. And I think between face-to-face and virtual, and I was thinking, especially in the virtual component, if we meet people, like sometimes, and Sharon will tell you this, they'll go to a school and they'll have in their mind, I'm only going to work at this school. And they only interview with that school. But because of the reports that Premier offers and the information we have, we can go back and reach out to them again and make connections to them again and show them all the other places that they could possibly go and fit in better. And so I think between the two, we live in the most exciting time that could ever be, being able to see all these changes and all the possibilities. And we just have to keep trying. But I think the two, virtual is here to stay, and we're going to use everything that we have together to recruit and supply people with jobs and careers.
Thank you, Dana. You know, you've always been a great supporter, and you know, we want to support you as much as we can back. So that goes to all our clients. We've gotten a lot of great reviews and 5-star reviews for our customer service. So, you know, we really pride ourselves on that. And it really is the feedback that you guys give us. So we're right up here at an hour. I want to thank again on behalf of Steve and everybody at Premier Virtual, our panelists and everyone who attended. We're going to share the replay of today's webinar in an email tomorrow. Anyone who's still on the call, you could email jamie@premiervirtual.com. If you do want to schedule a demo, just mention that you were on the webinar, and Jamie's going to offer, you know, a discount for you to start your first event. Just let them know that you were on the webinar today at, you know, May 18th. That's all I have. We're really excited. Next week, we're grand opening our office in Delray. We're going to have a virtual event. So whoever wants to watch Steve cry as he does his speech, you could log on around 5:30. We're gonna make that a public event on Facebook. So we're really happy about that. And we just want to thank everybody for being a part of this today. And we're going to just keep sharing lessons and keep getting better at this. And so thank you all for participating. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, John.
You're
I'll call
welcome.
you, Sharon.